Welcome to the Animation Station. I'm your co-host Joseph, and unfortunately, Teosha couldn't join us here today. But someone who joined us last week is helping us out again today. Another Joe.
I would consider that's fortunate. I mean, I'm here again. That makes me happy.
Yes. We're giving you a double dose of the Joe today, and we have an exciting episode coming to you guys right now. So at first, I just want to say thank you for stopping in and listening to us. Wherever you are, if you're at the gym or on your way home or just taking a nap because we bore you and you need to get to sleep. But either way, so today on the episode, last time Joe was with us, we sort of took some time to look back at everything that we've been watching, anime style and American cartoons. But today we're sort of going the opposite direction, and we're looking forward and going to be talking about some of the shows that are coming up that we're really excited for because it is fall, and with the new season comes a new set of show premieres.
I think I actually have a cartoon in mind. I think last time I was here, I only did anime, and that just kind of happened to be where it was. I actually have a cartoon set up to talk about today.
Okay, well, I mean, we're on here on the animation station. We talk about everything anime related, regardless if it's anime or American. But we welcome all types, but although it just has to be animation. Here, Joe and me are both kind of favored more towards the anime. Tiasha kind of always balance things out with since she favors more the American style cartoons. Cartoon Network, Warner Brothers, all those things. But I too am a big fan of Warner Brothers animation, mostly superheroes, which is something that we're going to be talking about today with one of the
Mm-hmm.
shows that we have picked out. So, but first, as always, we always have special guests kind of go first on the show. But Joe, since you were here with us last time and you did go first, I think I'll play a little fair and I'll start us off with the show today.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So the first things that we're going to talk about today is things that are coming up next month with new show premieres. And the one that I really, really want to talk about and get off my chest is Sword Art Online.
Sure.
Now, now this is a show that I really have a special place in my heart for because Sword Art kind of rekindled my love of anime when it first came out, the very first season back in, what was it, 2012, I believe was when it showed up on Netflix.
I trust your judgment. I don't have a memory that goes back that far.
Yeah. Well, looking it up, it was like in 2012 when it first came to Netflix. I think it was a little bit while after that when it actually had the dub version. I could be wrong, not exactly sure. But even though I was in love with Dragon Ball Z, that was my first exposure to the anime world, but I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit and wasn't really into it as much. I did watch Dragon Ball Z and I kept up with the series, but that was
Mhm.
pretty much it. But then again, came across Sword Art Online on Netflix, and then that really sort of rekindled my love of anime and kind of made me the sort of otaku that I am today. But something that's coming up next month in October is one of the series, the latest version of it. After last year, there was a huge hiatus between season two, season three. It was a couple of years before we actually got Sword Art Online, and now last year, about around this time last year in October, pretty much aligning 1 year later with the seasons, we're getting the second half of the Alicization arc.
Oh, so it stopped on a cliffhanger. It wasn't like a resolute ending. It's like I join us next week, and then a year later they're finally coming back next week.
Kind of, because I mean, the way it ended, it wasn't like an official ending. It was a cliffhanger, even though most of the series finales are kind of are, but it's continuing where they left off in the story. So they're even though it is a new arc, in I would say it's pretty much the same season. It's just continuing the other half because the last one was 12 episodes, I believe, and now they're continuing with like the other 12.
Okay.
So, each season is usually like around 24 or 25 episodes. And
How
now,
long? How many episodes was their trip to Aincrad and whatever the fairy place was called? Like, is that kind of like their structure, or is that
and
short for them?
sort of, yeah, because, well, because depending on how you look at it, you could say that they had the Eincrad one, and then again when they got out and he went to the Alfheim Online one, most people say like that's the same season. It's just two different halves. And then the next season, the second season that came after that was when with kind of the Rosario Hart, the one with Asuna, where she kind of had half of it was her with the Sleeping Knights, which
This is Gun Gale.
yeah, and yeah, so that was kind of like the first half where you had like the Gun Gale, and then they kind of went back to Alfheim, and then you had Asuna's arc with the Sleeping Knights. So a lot of people say like that was like the second season,
Oh, okay.
depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, it's easier just to take each kind of arc as its own season, but I guess that makes the
Exactly.
24 episode structure.
Yeah, it does make the 24 episode structure where each arc is like 12 episodes where you can say though that's the season. That's its own one individual season, but
Mhm.
this is considered the third season or the fourth season or however you want to look at it. But depending on based on how the last one ends, they are continuing with the story of where they were in the past Alicization. Just now they're calling it War of the Underworld, because that's kind of like that's this whole world that he's in, which is kind of funny. Talking about the show, the first two seasons, they were pretty easy to follow as far
That's
as
the
like,
ones I followed.
yeah, as far as like the technology, like it's pretty cut and dry on what the story is actually about. Now this past season, talking about the Alicization, it's kind of it's it's sort of getting away from its like its main attraction, like the first season, like what it was mostly about. But now it's kind of like diving into this conspiracy. No, I wouldn't say conspiracy theory, but it's now starting to branch into like government now are starting to like
The show's
want.
changing.
Yeah, it's drastically changing, and like the technology of like the full dive technology is like now. Before it was like used for gaming. Now it seems like the government is wanting to get a hold of this technology that they're trying to create, because in the first two seasons, it's pretty simple. It was all about gaming, virtual
Hmm.
reality and gaming.
It was just kind of Kirito's just Kirito's world. He was stuck there
Yeah.
before. When he finally got out, he had to go and save the one person he loved, and that was all his story.
Yeah.
After that
Absolutely.
was just at least for like Gun Gale Online, and when they went back to Aincrad, was kind of Rambo-esque, where he's retired, but someone else walks up and says, "We need your help," and he
Yeah.
goes back in.
But the one thing I liked so much about Gun Gale is that it was still tied into the Aincrad story arc, because the people who were killing inside the game, who were player killers, were starting to do it again within like Gun Gale, but they weren't killing them in the game; they were killing them in real life. But
Yeah,
like it was like a team effort where they were like kind of assassinating people while they were playing VR.
which
Uh,
is nuts to think about.
yeah, but it kind of makes sense. It's like these people, because it renders you pretty much unconscious, like in a sense like you're pretty much in a coma, it seems like,
Hmm.
because like your hearing seems to be impaired, your vision, like your motor skills is like you're almost in a coma, which is something that they address later on in the second seasons after Gun Gale with the Rosario Hart. You have this like cancerous, morbid, incredibly sick character that Asuna is with, or the Sleeping Knights Guild that she ends up going with, who are pretty much terminally ill people, and they just play. That's their way of being together and enjoying a real life.
I don't think
But
I ever got to that point in the story because
yeah,
I stopped watching after a bit for no real reason. I think I just got busy.
hmm
But all you're saying about Sleeping Nights, the only thing I remember is like one purple-haired character being like
yeah,
that. That
yeah,
expands to be like a bigger kind of group and what the story's about.
yeah. So pretty much, what happens is that the Sleeping Knights are a guild of characters who are terminally ill. Uh, they're sick, and they're going to die. So, and that's how they all met, is that they all kind of met in the hospital together. They're all grouped together in the same hospital, and they've started doing deep dive because some of they're sick, they're ill, they can't really go out and enjoy the world. So their way of having a full life ish is by going into these VR worlds.
Hmm. Some people
Eventually,
who like I can't move move their legs or that they're paralyzed for some reason, or they can still dive and move around in the game. That's just,
Yeah,
I'm assuming.
yeah, because like the purple head character that you're talking about, I'm drawing a blank from her name, but uh, she was like I believe she had AIDS,
Wow. Okay.
and so she was pretty much like in a bubble for pretty much towards the end of her life, and to where she was gaming like almost all the time because she was bedridden.
She
Like
couldn't leave. Yeah.
yeah, she didn't leave her bed, she didn't leave her hospital bed, so she did full dive like all the time, and that's how she lived her life until she died. But sort of talking about that now, it sort of addresses what now the new season Alicization is about, because now it seems like the technology is getting more advanced, and now it seems like what the whole plot of this story of the latest one is about them trying to create pretty much artificial intelligence.
Okay. That's a leap, but okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But with the technology, I mean, obviously, with full dive being virtual reality and creating all these things, because this kind of ties into what the Gun Gale is about. So the way the last season ends is that Kirito, the main character, is that the way that they were killing people in the Gun Gale version with the B&Es, that one person was like stabbing another person with a syringe and pretty much causing them heart failure. And
While they
that's how
were while they were in the game, like in
yeah,
real life, they gave him an injection.
yeah, and that's how pretty much how the last season ends, and that's why Kirito kind of becomes a test subject, and that's how he gets tied into it, because he goes into heart failure, and instead of him like dying, obviously from like his brain injuries and trauma and stuff like that, what they do, these government officials who he's like working for in the beginning of the Gun Gale, they decide to sort of put him through this program, which is the Alice program, and in doing so, they're trying to like help repair his brain from the injection, because like he had heart failure, and obviously when you start lacking oxygen, you get brain damage and stuff.
Yeah, your brain can't go much longer without oxygen or blood.
Yeah, exactly. So in order to kind of help repair his brain damage, that's why they put him under, and they put him like in this 24-hour like VR hologram, or pretty much in a game, in
Yeah.
their own private game, where he's like the only player, and everything else are just AIs,
Yeah.
NPCs, and stuff, or people, things that he's interacting with. And through this, the people are not only are they trying to repair his brain damage, but also they're trying to get this program where it grows to where they can sort of duplicate a person's consciousness in a way to create like an artificial intelligence, which they call floodlights. But it's kind of interesting because seeing how they talk about it in the show reminds me a lot of Halo with Cortana.
With having like the this AI kind of, I knocked my mic. Having this AI kind of jammed into the helmet gives a visual display and everything like that.
Well, pretty much how the AIs are copies of like a real person's consciousness in
Oh,
a way.
yeah.
Yeah, how Cortana is kind of like a copy of Dr. Halsey, who created the Spartan programs.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's similar to that in the sense. That's how what it reminded me of. How
So they're trying to make a copy of Kirito.
well, I think not just him, but to see how the NPCs react and change. Because even though they're programs, and programs can't operate within a certain rules, like they can't disobey rules, not like the way humans could.
Hmm.
The sense of free will, because AI, to a certain extent, it doesn't really have free will. Like it has parameters that it must work within, but it can never go outside those parameters. It can seem lifelike, but really it's not. Like you can script an artificial intelligence,
Hmm.
but what they're trying to do is trying to see if they can push those boundaries and see if they can create a program or an AI to where eventually it develops free will and self-awareness.
Okay, and they're using this guy who kind of needs to be like off the world for a bit to test it out.
Kind of, yeah. Like they're using him as a test subject and stuff. And it
Which
takes
is
me.
just gotta suck. Like the last
Yeah,
3 times you've been inside of a game, your life has
yeah,
been at stake, and now like, oh well, now you have to go in here or else your life's at stake without it.
yeah.
All right.
Which is kind of funny because I mean, he was willing to go under. He wanted to volunteer for this program for the government official, but then because of what happened to him at the end of the second season, they kind of just rushed it and they like did it anyway.
Oh,
But
okay.
it took me like multiple times to watch it to get it, because when I started watching it the first time around, like even though they try to explain it, I'm like, I need to buy the manga for this. I need to read the light novel because I don't get it. Like it was really like it was a bit much. Like it seemed like a lot to follow when like in the first season or even in the second seasons, like it was really simple in a way where you understood the conflict, you understood what was going on, like you got it. And now it seems like in this last season, they try to still keep it to the original, but it you can kind of tell the creators or the writer was like, I don't know where to go anymore. It seems like a little bit of writer's block and
He
stuff.
wanted to
But
step it up, and it much at the wall, and everything's stuck, and that's kind of a jumbled mess now.
yeah, I mean, the creator of the series, Riko Kawahara, which I think I'm pronouncing that right. You know, he's done a lot for it, and he's created a great fandom. I mean, all the video games and the fandom that's behind it, like it's really nice. And the movies were really amazing. I really liked them a lot. So I'm a huge fan of Sword Art Online. But speaking of him kind of having like the writer's block, like he's starting like on his final novel series. Like he's writing like the series finale. Like
Oh, he's planning to end it.
yeah, he's planning to end it soon with this final. I mean, obviously it's going to be a while. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot of volumes that go a little bit beyond of where the anime is now. But like right now, he's starting the process of like ending the series.
That's good because what sort of bothers me a little bit is when a show kind of goes longer than it has to, and it starts to change and it loses sight of where. I think we talked about this last time, but
Mm.
it's good that like this show is he's recognizing that the show has to end at one point, and he's getting it to an ending that he's satisfied with.
Yeah, I think so. Because I mean, there is a lot more arcs, a few more arcs that are coming, but I'm really anxious to see where this conflict goes, because the ending that happened with it, it seems like there's government officials or outside people, people in power who are looking at this technology that they're developing in this latest season and are looking to use it for, you know, military purposes, or
Mhm.
maybe they're trying to stop this sort of agency who are trying to create this sort of intelligence.
Got
It's
some evil kind of stirrings behind the scenes.
yeah, absolutely. Or it could just be people, the government, who are like, we're shutting this down, or we're taking over, or something along those lines. So I'm really anxious for it to start and see where it goes, as well as the sort of the what to expect in the latest editions of the new manga, and seeing how the series will eventually end.
Hmm.
But now that I talked about mine, let's move on to one of your findings for upcoming shows that you're looking forward to.
Well, this is one of the ones that I wish I had found out about sooner. There's still plenty of time for it to be released, but I'm glad I had figured it out. This is an animated non-anime. I don't cartoon, sure. It's coming out for I think Amazon, which is gonna. I might have to get Amazon to watch this, but it's coming out next year sometime, and it's based off of the comic book series Invincible by Robert Kirkman, who's the same guy who wrote Walking Dead.
Yeah, which
Uh,
is a great show, and
which is a
an
good
even better
show.
comic book.
Uh, I actually have some of the comic books that it's based off of, Walking Dead and Invincible. But it's going to be a cartoon. It's coming out later, and the whole thing, it follows a kid, and he's just turned 17ish, And he's known for a while that his dad is Omni-Man, who's pretty much Superman.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not Superman.
Yeah,
And
because
they can't copy it. It's not
yeah.
it's
Even
not DC.
though there's like so many others, but yeah, it's like its own universe. It's not associated with the DC or Marvel.
Yeah, and it's Image, so it can't use any of those characters.
Mm-hmm.
But he's known that his dad is Superman for a very Omni-Man for a very long time, and he's been told like, hey, one day you're gonna get these powers, and I will teach you, and we're gonna be a father-son duo. It's gonna be amazing. One of the first scenes in the first comic is him. He's working at like a fast food restaurant as a teenager, and he's going out to throw the trash out, and there's a dumpster. He has a big old like trash bag in his hand, and he throws the pile of trash at the dumpster, and it flies off into the stratosphere. And he's just looking at it like, today's the day. He's all excited, and he slowly like is learning to become a superhero from his dad. I think like in the next, after a few comics afterwards, there's just a random scene of a guy in like Scotland or maybe England getting hit with that trash bag as it re-enters the atmosphere. But he learns
burn up on re-entry or something.
It's just like it's a weird setup shot, and like what are we? It's Big Ben, so it was in Britain, I think. And it just zooms in on some guy on his phone in the middle of the night, and the trash bag hits him. And it's a few comics after, like they don't like I remembered it because I bought the big old like trade book that has like the first 10. So it was I like, oh yeah, I read that like 30 minutes ago or whatever. But for everyone else, it's like, oh yeah, that comic book that came out 3 months ago, he threw a trash bag and now it landed.
Yeah. It's like people wouldn't remember. It's like, where does garbage bag come from? And then they had to go back. It's like, oh, that's when that one was.
Yeah. So it's got a hearty sense of humor about it. It's like one of his big moments is his dad's busy, so he has to protect something on his own. Like he's got a superhero suit he's got a name, he's got a few villains that he's fought. And one of the things that happens is every year or so an alien named Bob shows up, and he has to defend the world from Bob, because if he loses, that means that his world is under, I think this is the plot. His world is now like, all right, well, now that you couldn't defend your world, it's ours now. We're going to come and destroy it. So he fights this guy, and in the middle of it, he finds out that they can speak the same language through like telepathy or something. And he finds out that this is all a big mistake. This alien wasn't supposed to show up on this planet. He's supposed to show up on another planet with a slightly different name. So like you get an action scene, and he goes, "Oh, dude, I'm sorry. Oh, I've been coming here for 5 years. Oh, Jesus. All right, you know what? I'm gonna figure this out. I'll be back." It's got a good sense of humor about it, but it is written as an adult cartoon. And there are a few spoiler things about it that I'm not going to get to. But there are points where the main character is kind of destroyed a bit, and it gets a little bloody. So it's not 100% a kid's cartoon. It's not like Saturday Morning Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But it has a good sense of humor about it. It's got some nice action scenes from what I've seen. And there was a weird side plot that I stopped reading because comics are expensive, that I never got around to solving. It was just a guy who I think he could teleport to different times or like universes, and he would just get copies of himself, and he's bringing them back to our universe. And there's just like 40 of them hanging out in a warehouse, and I don't remember why he was doing that. But yeah, it's a good show. The twist comes fairly soon. I'd be interested to know if in the TV show the twist will be at the very beginning or like the end of season 1. That's where I would imagine it would fit somewhere. They could like rush it to make it like the show is about post twist, or they could make it the whole season 1 is setting everything up for that twist at the very end.
Yeah, which would kind of like, I mean, most of the things end on like on a cliffhanger of some kind, or a twist, so that way people are like, oh, what happens next? Or they have the twist and like the one before, and then they're like, find out what happens on the season finale,
Yeah.
So,
Standard
it depends.
Kind of DBZ stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But since it is on Amazon, I mean, they're free to do whatever they want.
Yeah, so it just has to. Does Amazon release stuff out like Netflix does, where they just like, all right, and here's the entire season, or do they actually go week by week?
I'm not entirely sure. I haven't really watched anything on Amazon before, on Amazon Prime. It depends, really. I would assume it's much like Netflix because
Uh,
it's its own streaming
yeah,
network.
it, it,
So
it it's their own property.
yeah, so I would assume that it's just like the whole thing just released because they do have other shows which are on regular pay-per-view television like HBO,
Mhm.
Stars, and all that, and of some other series that are on regular television, network television.
Yeah, at that point they would be locked in to be releasing the episodes when they've released in normal
Exactly.
cable.
But that's completely different. You know,
Yeah,
that's network stuff. That's not their own streaming service. So if it is like exclusive to like Amazon streaming service, I would assume it's like just the whole thing. Like here you go,
I would
much
hope
like
so.
Netflix.
That's something I would binge.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Because you know, they had I never watched it, but I remember being promoted a lot at Comic Con was Tick.
yeah, that was a big thing. I think the first episode was free, which I watched, but I didn't have
Hmm.
Amazon Fire, so I didn't watch the rest.
Yeah, yeah. So if I mean, I don't know if that was all at once.
I think it was.
So I assume it's just like Netflix. I don't know.
Here's the hoping.
Yeah,
I do
but
know.
if it is, it's just something you can binge.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be probably at the standard kind of test the waters first season, 12 episodes. I don't know if it's going to be
Mhm.
30 minutes or an hour long show, but I'm excited for it.
Well,
An interesting connection to it actually is
mhm.
the main character, the Invincible, the kid who's getting superpowers. He's played by oh crap, I knew his name. He's played by the guy who plays Glenn in The Walking Dead, which is really funny because he's going from one Mark Kirkman property to the other.
Oh, is it was it Stephen Huen? Is that
That
him?
sounds right. That sounds
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, because
yeah,
reading about it, it says like it has J.K. Simmons, Seth Rogen, Sandra Oh, and a couple other big names
it's
in it and stuff.
got a lot of good names attached to it. They don't
Mm,
have any, at least from what I'm looking at, they don't have any characters they're attached to other than Stephen
mm.
Ewan is Invincible and J.K. Simmons is not Superman, Omni-Man,
Yeah.
which is great. I love J.K. Simmons and everything he does.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's very funny.
but seeing like Seth Rogen,
Which is
I want to see all of these guys and who they become.
yeah, I'm pretty sure Seth Rogen's probably like his best friend or something.
Something like that. He might even be Bob because on it, like the alien Bob who he has
Yeah,
research stuff.
that actually kind of sounds like him because it
Yeah,
sounds like the alien Bob is like kind of a mess, kind of like a guy who messes up
well,
all the time or
he's a
kind of
proud warrior, but like that one time he messed up, but I can they become like friends a little bit. Like they
yeah,
talk to each other,
like
and
frenemies.
yeah, like after he comes back eventually, and he goes like, "Oh, dude, complete mistake. I wasn't supposed to come here the entire time." Which sounds like I can hear Seth Rogen saying this now.
Yeah, I can
Uh,
hear him talking about it too. You know, he's like, oh,
and it's actually through this character that the twist kind of shows up a little bit.
hmm
So if Seth Rogen can do some serious voice acting, that'd be great. I do know he's writing it. I'm looking at it right now. I'm learning new stuff as we talk about it.
hmm
Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg would write, direct, and co-produce. I hope that means he's still a voice because he's under cast. So
Yeah, I mean, if he's produced, I mean, whenever he's produced anything or directed or was involved in the creative process, he usually puts himself in it.
some
But
yeah.
judging
Uh,
from the series, you know, how much content would you say is they're able to pull from?
I'm looking back at my shelf right now, and I have five of those trade comics where there's like a comic is a pretty thin kind of book. This one has about 5 or 10 of them, depending on which one you get. I've got five of them,
Hmm.
which I want to really reread now. And
Yeah.
the book went on without me. Like I stopped reading it. I was behind from the start, and it went on without me for a while. Let me see how many actually comic series they have. Invincible comic. So it's a long running show. I'm sure like a lot of it can be glossed over with just like, all right, cool. That's like we don't want to. I don't want to say that. Knowing that TV show that's pulling from a very long like list of depth and of writing, they'll probably want to make it last as long as possible.
Yeah, because judging from it, it looks like they first published was back in 2004
Oh
was
yeah,
was the first published volume. So it's been going on for quite a while.
I'm seeing,
It's
yeah.
more than it's nearly 15 years old when the first one was published, and then looks like a good maybe 30 or 40 different volumes have been published of Invincible. So
Oh,
seems like
okay.
they have quite a bit, and I don't
The
know.
final issue was issue 144, and it was published last February 2018.
Okay, yeah.
Which
So,
I got to stop researching this because the covers could be spoilers.
because you're seeing what's happening, you're like, no.
He's in a new costume and he looks important. And now
Yeah.
okay.
It's
People
like
on the cover I know survive. Like, damn
yeah,
it.
I don't want to ruin it. But looking at some of the artwork, it's pretty good. I wonder if they're gonna try and keep it that comic book style, or what kind of animation they're gonna be using to create the show.
It's definitely gonna take a hit in quality because animating is so much more work than just I don't want to say just pictures on the comic book.
Mhm.
They have to take away some quality to get all the in between frames in there. But it is a very crisp kind of standard like Superman kind of look. It's not very dramatic in the lighting. It can be when it wants to, but on the covers it's usually lighthearted and very vibrant and saturated colors.
Mm-hmm.
One of the villains that shows up fairly often as like a one-off villain is I think he's called Biplane, and it's just a scientist with a jetpack that has like two pairs of wings on each side, and he's just the biplane. Like, all right, it was. It's I forget. I think he was just like a throwaway villain. Like he just solves the problem immediately because it's such a lame hero or lame villain.
Mm.
Oh crap! I'm gonna risk looking him up. Invincible comic. I think he's called the Biplane. Images? Oh yeah. Doesn't look like he shows up that often. Oh well. But it's kind of like this, like his jetpack looks like this old like World War One kind of vibe. Because it's like his one big turbine and four wings popping out of it. It's a neat design. It's kind of goofy.
Mm. So that's pretty cool. Well, thinking about it, I'm kind of curious if they'll probably take a page and make it something similar to that of some of like the WB animations, like the like some of the more adult, mature DC films.
The film. Oh, the God, like Judas Contract and
Yeah.
the other one, Hell to Pay.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I wouldn't hate that at all. Like that kind of fits with what it is. I'd like a
Yeah.
little more. I don't want to say a little more time and love put into them.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of those like animations you can tell like, all right, this is where they had the B team animate the non-fight scene, and that's
Yeah.
fine. I'm not gonna blame because there are levels to everybody's skill, and I'm not gonna bash on them.
Yeah.
But I've like, as much as I like Judas Contract and Hell to Pay and Teen Titans and all them, like
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of one of those things that like I discovered it, and then I told other people about it, and they discovered it. Like, yeah, I gave this to my friends, this idea, and I've got a little more hope writing on it. I want it to be as good as possible. Where Teen
Mm-hmm.
Titans, like everyone knew about Teen Titans, it was on every Saturday morning way back
Yeah.
when.
Well, I mean, because you did have like the Justice League movies, Justice League War, Justice League Dark, which were pretty well done. I liked them a lot. But as far as like their kind of design and the quality of the drawings, I can see them sort of maybe going in that type of direction where it was kind of like this blend between like American and anime a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So having that kind of comic book style, I can see them maybe using that. I don't know. It's very curious when adapting comic books as far as like which direction, as far as like the type of quality you want to go for in in a show, and considering that it is in fact uh, Amazon that they're releasing the whole thing all at once, it makes you wonder, how much time are they spending to work on this? Because they can kind of, because they need to kind of get everything done. So you have these teams working on multiple episodes at once, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But
Hopefully they won't reuse any animations that they make.
well, it'd be kind of, I don't know how they would do it. Like I don't know if they're just working on one episode at a time, or if they have multiple teams working on multiple episodes at once. You know, it's
I
it's
don't have
very
too much
I'm pretty
experience in
curious
watching a
about.
lot of Amazon stuff.
Yeah, I mean, me neither. So I'm actually kind of curious on what type of process they would use, or even, going on Netflix, the Transylvania series, that type of quality where it is not exactly anime, but that kind of cartoon art stuff.
They have a TV series now?
Yeah, yeah, the second season, which is something that we can talk about another day. But like that's that kind of art style on because Netflix too is starting to have like its own anime series and stuff. But I don't know. It will be coming out in 2020, so
Yeah, I've got a ways to wait.
yeah, I'm sure we'll do a recap of that once it comes out.
Once I've watched the entirety of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about you? What was your second one in line? What are we talking about next?
Okay, so this is another show that is actually I kind of have a soft spot for, only because it made me laugh so much and so hard, and that is Food Wars.
Oh, I know this one. I
Yeah,
haven't seen it, but I know of this one. It's very
yeah,
infamous.
yeah. It's freaking hilarious. Like it just makes me laugh so much, and I'm kind of hoping like maybe some things are going to happen here. So to kind of give a brief summary, a quick elevator pitch of this film. I mean, sorry, excuse me. The show is that it's about cooking. It's an anime about cooking, and it's just thinking about it, I'm laughing because first things first is that it takes place in Japan, and it follows this. The protagonist is his name is Yukihira Soma, or Soma is his first name. Yukihira is his last name.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but so he works at this restaurant with his dad. It's a father-son restaurant, and he's a pretty good cook. I believe he's in junior high or middle school, and he's about to really start high school. So in the pilot, it starts off with him like cooking with his dad, and he's entering like this competition, like this cook-off between him and his dad, and like his high school, his childhood friend is like the judge, and obviously his dad wins because his dad's the better cook. And
Everyone in middle school thinks they're cooler than their dad, and they
yeah,
always
yeah,
have to
yeah.
learn it in a harsh way.
Yeah. And then you later find out that it's like, I don't know, he's like 300 and something wins over his son. Like they've been competing with each other ever since he was like 3 years old. So, but one day, like this is all in the pilot and the first season, and his dad leaves. He's like, "Oh, I gotta go somewhere," or whatever. And then later he finds out that his son Yukihira, who's the main character, he has to go to like this elite prestige cooking academy, high school, and it's pretty ridiculous because let's see, I'm trying to think of what the name of the academy is. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So he has to go to like this really fancy Tosuki Culinary Institute, and he goes there, and since he's a transfer student, he has to first like do like this entrance exam.
He has to
And
prove he has to be there.
yeah, and that's where he meets sort of like his rival, but also kind of slash love interest, is this girl named Arina Nakiri, and she is just this stuck up snob. Like she thinks she's like, I would rather not say, but she's completely like this stuck up uptight girl. And
Is she the blonde one? I have images up. Is she's the
no, well, she's kind of like a brunette in a way,
Okay.
and she's kind of like not exactly his protagonist, but she's just someone who's like really snobby because she's like the granddaughter of like the president of the school. So she's like
Okay.
she's like of the dean or whatever of the school. So she's like the granddaughter, and she's like really good at cooking, but she's all like, "Oh, you want to get into this transfer school? You have to impress me and cook something." And there was like, I don't know, like 150 transfer students applicants, and like they all run away
Hmm.
because she has like this reputation of just being like this harsh critic, because apparently she has like twice as many taste buds than the average person.
I
So
don't I don't think that makes you better at tasting, but okay.
well, apparently it does. Apparently it does, because her biology makes her a better taste tester, which makes her like a harsher critic because she has so many taste buds.
Okay.
And like she's completely off put by him because his character Soma is that he is just like so relaxed. Like he is so chill and so easygoing. Like he has like not a care in the world. He's actually really, really funny. And but he's only serious about one thing, and that is cooking. Like he like it like flips the switch in him.
Mm-hmm. He
And
goes Super Saiyan when he gets into the kitchen.
pretty much, yeah. And she's all like, whatever. So he like makes her a dish, and it's like eggs with steamed rice, and and she's like, fine, I'll taste it. But the thing is, like, it's very simple.
Yeah,
But when she
it's
eats it,
egg steam rice. That's like basic
yeah,
101.
yeah. But she eats it and she like melts. And this is what makes me laugh about this show so much, is because when they eat something, it is just ridiculous on
It
on
is it is the money shot of the entire show.
pretty much, yeah. It's what attracts you, because it's like, because like, I mean, everyone eats food, and everyone has eaten like really crappy food, and everyone has eaten like really, really delicious food. But you think to yourself, I'm like, okay, how do I express that? How do I express that this is delicious? How do I express that this is just like the most overwhelming,
You can't
delicious
taste the
thing?
TV show. You have to show it how good
Yeah,
this is to the audience.
yeah, exactly. And it's just hilarious, like just how far they're willing to go. Because like some of it actually kind of makes you uncomfortable, because there are some scenes where like the girls are like eating, like even the men are eating like some of the food, and I guess it's like orgasmic.
Yeah, I'm going through. Like, I know about this this part of the show just from hearing about it, and I'm going through different image searches, and I'm seeing like one of the characters being like drenched in honey, and I don't
Yeah.
know what that's about. But then scrolling down a little bit more, it's another character. The person was a girl. This one's a guy drenched in the same, probably the same scene. So they're
Yeah.
being fair, but it's still a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, like it's pretty ridiculous, because like the way they express like just how like good and it feels, and how much like they're able to taste it. And it's kind of weird, because like whenever they eat something like that, like they go to that place or something, like it's just kind of crazy. Like if they eat something spicy, it just shows them like on fire, and they're just like, oh my god, or if they eat something sweet or like delicious, or it's just kind of messed up on like some of the things that they put you through with this show. And it's just like, and it's kind of hilarious, because like all the characters like take on like this persona, like it's kind of weird. Like I can't really explain it, like because they have school uniforms, but the thing is like no one actually wears a school uniform. Like they kind of like tailor it to like their own personality, and everyone, of course it's anime, so everyone has like this ridiculous
Mhm.
personality type on how they.
Hairstyle.
Yeah, and but the one thing that's kind of neat though, it kind of throws you off sometimes, because since it is an anime and it takes place in Japan, the show does, but it is an anime. So of course everything's dubbed in Japanese, but it's kind of funny, because since it's culinary, you get these people from all over the world
Oh,
who attend.
this is a worldwide academy. Like they're the best in the world, so everyone shows up.
Yeah, exactly. So you have some characters who are you have this Takumi is a character, Aldini, and he's kind of like his rival in a way, and he's Italian. So it's kind of funny, and he talks about Italian cuisine, and you have this other character who does French cuisine, another who does Sweden, another who does Indian. There's a character, what's his name, Akihira Hayama, and he's Indian. But this is what makes me laugh about.
Are these Indian and are these Indian names, or are they just
Yeah,
because
yeah, because I had to look them up. I was like, what's this? But Aldini is obviously an Italian name. Uh, and then you have one character who's Japanese, but he studies French cuisine. So you kind of get introduced to like all these different cuisines throughout the show. But the one thing that I love so much about it is that I actually learned about cooking watching this show.
Oh, have you tried some of the stuff they did?
I did. I tried some of the recipes that I saw from the show, and I was like, huh, this actually is really good.
Oh my
Because
God, and it works.
yeah, because here's the thing, none of it is like impossible as far as the sense. Because here's the one thing that you guys can actually take from the show, with it being about cooking, is that they actually kind of break it down for you about the ingredients and how certain different ingredients interact with each other. Because there's different times where you can use one ingredient or use another to kind of mix it up. Because here's what's really fascinating about it, and this is why it's called Food Wars, is that in this academy, only like a handful of people graduate. Like there's hundreds of freshmen, and then by the time there's only like a handful of seniors. Like they talk about how there's hundreds of people, freshmen, and then by the end of it, seniors can pretty much fit in one class.
Oh, wow.
Because people just end up getting eliminated or expelled, or not expelled, but they like the teachers just fail them. They're like, your dish isn't good enough, get out. Like you're done. It's kind of like
stuff.
yeah.
And those
pretty
teachers don't not exist. Well, they exist. We went to the same college. I don't know if you ever had. I don't want to say his name because whatever. But you had a specific teacher. But there was one that was known for being particularly harsh. And I never saw the extremely bad stuff, extremely harsh things that he did. But there were rumors that like he made people cry, and
Yeah.
he made someone like quit the school, like made as in like not forced, but it's like, hey, think about other stuff. It was like really harsh, really truthful things, and I was lucky enough to avoid
Yeah,
a lot of that. But
exactly.
like those teachers exist, and that's kind of scary.
Yeah, exactly. But imagine the teacher that could expel you if your homework wasn't good enough, or if your final project wasn't good enough.
Well, that's just bring it to the anime
Or
equivalent. Like people
yeah, or they
are
could
eating
flunk
hot
you.
sauce and breathing
Yeah,
fire. In the
yeah.
same way, this teacher can actually expel you if you, I don't know, show up late enough.
Or they flunk you. They flunk you, and you get an F. So you're gonna have to eventually, if you get an F in this class, pretty much you're kicked out, or something along those lines. But also, the one thing that gives the show its name, Food Wars, is the thing called Shogugeki, which is Food Wars, and which is a food battle. So this is what the school is famous for: is that students could battle each other, sort of like the way we have our cooking competitions here in the States.
Oh, like Iron Chef and all that.
Yeah, pretty much like Iron Chef or Cake Wars or all the other millions of cooking shows that we have, where it's a cooking competition. So all these, and this is where it gets like its intensity from, where, and some of the finales have, where students battle each other in a cooking competition, and they put something on the line, they risk something, and a lot of students usually risk their
Enrollment.
membership, their
Ooh.
their student status. And also some of them, like there's like a territorial thing, like they battle, there's some parts where they battle their dorms, they battle like I guess students, like one big thing is like research and being able to like experiment with different food recipes, that way your food is like really really good, so you can actually graduate and pass. So like how most students, they study with books, like going to a library,
Mm.
or they have a lab or something. So imagine at this culinary institute, you need places, you need things, you need a chicken farm, you need place to grow crops, you need, you know, facilities to grow food, and so you can study and practice cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And you need like good kitchens, you need good, utensils, all these things. And this is sort of the things that they battle for. It's like, hey, we'll give you, we'll hand over our kitchens, which are like 5,000 square feet or something like that, or I'll handle over like our top of the line cooking supplies, so you guys can practice studying your cooking or something. So it's kind of like that, where they gamble.
Oh, you
They're
have to fight your way to better. That's like a video game.
kind of, yeah, in a way, and that's where the Food Wars things comes from. Is like where there's these different clubs, which are kind of like, I guess, factions, I guess you can say, and they all fight each other and by putting something up in these food wars. So that way, and if their food is better, they win, they get more, and eventually, if you keep on losing, eventually you end up with nothing, and eventually you end up flunking out or dropping out because you're
You
not a
don't
good
have
cook.
anything.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like that kind of thing. And what I'm really excited about in this story is that there's things have gotten a lot of attention. Like this is going to be the fourth season, and it's kind of gone a big way where things are getting really, really intense as far as like the stakes of these things. Because you come to find out that his father, the main protagonist's father, is like a really big deal, which is kind of hilarious because he was just the signs were there and you as like the observer, like you're watching it and you get it like yeah, like I see where this is going. It's pretty obvious from the very beginning, but the main characters, Soma, he's pretty dense.
Oh,
and
the hapless protagonist that's just really good at one thing, but kind of dumb.
yeah, because it's kind of funny because he has a lot of these romantic interests because it's an anime.
Mhm.
So there's all these girls that are kind of who get impressed by him and stuff. So like he gets all these girls that are kind of taking an interest in him, and he's just like, "Meh, meh." like he doesn't get it. Like, but I think now with because he says like nice things and he does like really good things. Like
He's
he's a stand
genuinely a good person.
yeah, he's like generally a good person. He's very laid back, relaxed, and he's all like, I only really care about cooking. I only want to do cooking. And then, but now, like, sort of in the last season, things have gotten revealed, and like he finds things out about his dad and a little bit about his past, and people find things out about him. So you get more about like the parents and even like her grandfather, the Arena, who's kind of like his protagonist in a way. You find out things about her grandfather, who's like the dean of the school. You start finding out these little secrets about him, and he's funny because like in one of the season finales. So one of the things that they have with the freshmen is that like they have like this big competition where it's like a tournament with like the food war. That's like kind of like how the one season ends. And it's funny, like when he eats food, like he just like flexes really hard and like his clothes
Oh,
ripped. He's like, "Oh, this is
is
delicious."
that guy? Oh,
Yeah, he's that guy.
I thought he was just, I don't know, like he was given some like warrior's meal and he buffed out. I know.
No, he like buffs out from like the food or something. Like he flexes whenever he's eating something delicious. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but
I was scrolling around and found it, and it's like he looks like an old like samurai master in a
yeah,
completely different kind of anime, and he's sitting there and like he's flexed and his clothes are in tatters, like in floating in space around him. Like I don't know how that. Thank you for explaining that. I was gonna
yeah.
research what that had
He's
anything to do.
always like in like samurai robes because it's just hilarious. But I don't know. I'm really excited for the show. I've always tried some of the recipes because whenever they do the competitions, they kind of break down how they made it. And like everyone's like, "Oh, this is delicious," it's like, "What did you use for this?" And they kind of break it down like why they use certain ingredients. Or like the judges who are eating the food, they'll say, "Oh, they use this. Usually this is, from this region, and a lot of people use this for like a seasoning, but they used it for a garnish or something like that." Like they kind of break down the ingredients and they give like a little history, little information about the ingredients that are used. So it was pretty interesting. Like some of the rest, like you kind of learn stuff about cooking.
Hmm.
Uh, through watching the show, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I liked it so much.
I'm seeing a lot of the like the end results. Like when you said that like you started like working on some of the foods, I looked up some recipe, and there's a whole bunch of sites that say that teach you how to do it in similar ways. But they're also featuring like the end result product right here, and they look like this is animated. This is what they did to show you as a viewer, and they look delicious. They look fantastic.
Yeah, so I would highly recommend like watching the show and just like look some of the stuff that they made, and maybe implement some of their techniques and just like give it a shot and just be like, hey, it's like that. It's actually pretty good, and because like they always do like this out of the box thinking because like much like Iron Chef, they kind of throw like these curveballs in their cooking classes or their cooking competitions. So to see like how I'm pretty sure they like the creators like either has a culinary background or they had consulted with professional chefs
Mhm.
for like the ingredients that they made. So I'm really anxious to see what comes next.
Yeah. I kind of want to watch the show. I also kind of just want to try eating any of these things on the list.
Yeah. Well, that'll be the weekend. All
I gotta
right.
go. I that's if this inspiration lasts that long. I might then I gotta go to the grocery store, find
Hmm.
out whatever the hell this spice is and if they even have it.
Yeah.
Duck katsu curry sounds good, but I don't know where to get duck. Uh,
Well, watch the pilot and just make what the he makes in the pilot because I made that and it was actually really delicious.
oh, is that the pork roast kind of deal? The
Yeah,
yeah.
the bacon wrapped roast with the potatoes. So,
I
it,
walked in on my old roommate watching this show. I forget what I needed from him, but he was, and I saw like the preparation of it, and it looked delicious. And I could have walked in a lot of places in this show, and it would have been real weird. Because I think on that one, he gives the. I haven't seen this part. He told me after the fact, but he gives the food to whoever the plot required him to do so, and like their clothes explode off or something, or
yeah,
something crazy. Like if I
yeah,
walked in at that point, I would have been like, oh, okay, never mind. We'll pay the bills later. Like,
yeah, 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 yeah.
but luckily I walked in and it was this gotcha pork roast. I didn't know this was the first episode.
Yeah, that
Uh,
that is the pilot. Yeah.
that's okay, cool. I might actually give this one a watch. Maybe later today, but or
Yeah.
maybe right about now because we're rolling up on an hour.
Yeah.
Uh, I know we only got three in, but we can kind of geek out about My Hero Academia for like 5 minutes and then call it a day.
Yeah, absolutely. So, uh, I know I rambled on a little bit long about that Food Wars, but
Oh no, it's a good show.
yeah, it is really great. It's on its fourth season, so coming up, which is a really big achievement, I think. There's so many animes out there that don't really get that many a second season, let alone a fourth.
Mm.
But speaking of somebody who's going on their fourth season, Hero Academia.
My Hero Academia.
Yes, I am super excited about this. It's getting a second movie.
It's getting a second movie. I just
It
barely watched the first one.
Yeah, it's a second. It's getting a second movie. It's like Tale of Two Heroes, I think it's called, or something with two heroes. Or
The Two Heroes was the first one.
no, no, no. Sorry. That was the first one. But yeah, it is getting a second movie. I know that for sure because I think it's. Hmm.
Oh yeah, it's already got some art going on.
Yeah.
Uh, Release date and title. Heroes Rising.
Yes, Heroes Rising. That's what I was thinking of. Yes. So, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure what its release date is for the second movie, but I know they announced it that when it's going to be released. Oh, it's I believe it's well, it's in Japan on December 20th.
This year?
It doesn't exactly say.
I hope it's this year. That
Yeah.
means we only have to wait just a little bit after that to get an English one. Because like I'm English for me the entire way because
Hmm.
I started it in English and the voice acting is phenomenal for it.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure
Yes.
Piccolo is All Might and I love that.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm going to be waiting for it to show up in English somewhere.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, 12/20. So I believe it's this year, and then probably the English version will probably be coming, maybe sometime in the winter, sometime
Yeah,
2020.
hopefully near the beginning. That'd be great.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm curious what storyline where in the storyline it's gonna follow, but uh, yes, I mean Hero Academia. I mean this is something that we've talked on the show plenty of times, but now I'm really curious because they had, unlike the last time that we sort of talked about, upcoming episodes. This was on our last upcoming episodes. We had we talked about Hero Academia a little bit, but now since then we got a trailer, so now we have a little bit more information about the show,
Mhm.
and I'm really anxious to see what comes up next because now we actually have the big three characters.
Yeah,
So
they
now we're getting more than just freshmen. We're actually seeing the seniors.
and I was super like when they introduced the big three, but they only went into depth for the one guy. I don't remember his name. The guy who
Mhm.
could who could phase through things and how
Mhm.
much of a good power that is, but it's so difficult to use. And that was such an interesting character. That power is so cool because he uses it intelligently
Mhm.
to make it work. And you pretty much learn nothing about the other two other than one's kind of a doesn't like to be in the spotlight and the other one does.
Mhm.
And
Very, very intrusive.
yeah, um, I was asking friends of mine who are they? Like I need to know what they do, and I don't. He answered, I don't remember what they were.
Yeah, yeah. So, what their powers is the female, her powers is like wind drills.
Wind
Kind of,
drills.
yeah, kind of like because if you look at her costume, everything's like a spiral. Like her hair, she spirals into horns. So I think the way it works is kind of like tornadoes, kind of like into like a wind gust spirals.
Sort of like that Tempest guy from the other school.
Sort of, yeah. And then the other character is that his thing is he takes on the characteristics of things that he eats. So you see in the trailer, if you pause it at the right second, you see his fingers are like octopus fingers,
Okay.
like tentacles, and he's able to sort of change his appearance based on like kind of like what he eats. So there's I know like in the manga and some of the other things that he eats like crab or shellfish and he develops like this hard shell or something.
Okay.
Like it's kind of weird, but
That's upon hearing that, I would like if I were to get that power, I'd be kind of like I would feel a little like I could have gotten something so much better, but
yeah.
but he's one of the big three. He has to use it effectively, and I'm interested to see
Hmm.
how it does. That's one of the
Yeah.
as much as I like All Might, as much as I love All Might, I don't like him because of his power. I like him because of who he is. Because his
Hmm.
power on paper is kind of boring. Like, oh, he's just a really big, strong guy who's almost invincible. Like, all right, yeah, that's cool,
Yeah.
but it's not interesting to look at. For seeing all three of these the big three, they all have interesting powers that they have to use creatively. So I'm really
Mhm.
interested in see how they use the power.
Yeah, because again, the girl, she's able to produce like waves of energy. So she's able to take energy, discharge it. So kind of like it reminds me of Black Panther almost, like how his
Yeah.
suit can take on energy and disperse it.
Just
So it's kind of like that. And then, as we said, the other characters, what they're capable of doing. So they have really strong powers. But again, yeah, it depends on how they use it. But the one thing I'm really interested about them is because they're seniors, and it kind of gives you sort of like this foreshadowing on what are the main protagonists could be, sorts
hmm
such as like Deku, Uraraka, Ida, Bakugo, all those characters. Like we already seen who they are within like this first year or these past 2 3 seasons. Imagine what they're going to be in the next 2 to 3 years when
yeah,
they're actually 18 years old, because they're like 14 15 years old. they're
yeah. This is
they're
high
young.
school.
Yeah, yeah, they're freshmen. They're really young. So imagine what they're going to be at 18, 19, or what they could be at 18, 19.
hmm
And that kind of gives you uh, an idea of how far the creator can go with
Yeah,
the
it's
mangas and the light novels, because it's like they're freshmen. So you have high school, you have college, you have, their young 20s, even though that's where kind of like, most series usually end,
yeah.
you know.
It'll probably end when they graduate, or maybe it might do the Harry Potter thing where the last year isn't a year. It's just hey, the school's broken down. Save the world for your last year of
Yeah,
school.
yeah, or something, yeah. Or like their first year out of UA,
hmm
that shows kind of gives you a glimpse of him going off into the sunset as a professional, and you kind of everything's kind of open ended of what Deku becomes, because you got like 3 4 years to that day. So it's like how much can he grow in those 3 to 4 years with his power?
and it's done a good job to show how much more confident he is. Like I had finished all the way. I've been caught up all the way through season 3, and then I rewatched the first season because someone else, well, Elisa was the from the sister podcast, Coffee Break. She started watching it, and I got to see Deku at his like weakest, and when he's meek, when he's unconfident, and seeing that change is amazing. Like, because even when he gets all buffed out with a 6-pack after he cleans up the beach in the first few episodes, he's still scared a lot.
Well, because because even then he just like he hasn't used the power yet, so
yeah,
it really you don't really see it until he learns full cowling, which is when he's with Gran Torino, until he actually is able to actually be a hero. Because before then, he's really still not really that confident or competent even to do anything, because he still didn't really know how to control it.
Yeah,
but once
he would break
learned
his fingers every chance he could get.
Yeah. But then once he learned full cowling, like then it's like, okay, now we're really getting somewhere. Now he can actually be of use, which we saw with him when he was fighting against Stain, the hero killer. So I'm really anxious, but now we'll just make this quick one and then we'll get ready to wrap up here. Now it's like with the series finale of All Might taking on All for One, we see we're now like the two biggest people on both sides. The All Might, the biggest hero, All for One, the biggest villain. Both of them have been knocked down now. Now we're going to see like this rise of both heroes and villains coming into the picture, and it's just going to be like this huge collide, I think, of ton of characters and a lot of action coming our way. Obviously, people who've read the novels or the light novels and the manga know what's going to happen, this upcoming season.
And don't you say a thing, any of you.
yeah. But, a lot of people know what's coming because, they're pretty still far ahead with the comics, with the manga. But with that being said, I'm really anxious to see like the big three, because now they're coming into play and all of these other pretty big characters. So I think we're going to see a lot more action than we did in the past couple of seasons. Because pretty far, it's just been pretty one-sided with just like All Might and occasionally Deku. But now we're actually going to see them fighting like a lot more.
Mm-hmm. And I really hope that they don't take away too much from the side characters, because part of what makes that show great is that every single one of Deku's classmates could probably have their own show.
They probably could, even though some are more popular than others.
Some are definitely
I'm
more
not going to lie
popular
about that. But I think, but the one thing that was really good when they were going through their trainings in the last season is that everyone kind of got their time in the spotlight.
Especially for the internship. Kind of like, let's go see what they're doing for their internship. They all got at least a mini scene about like, hey, cool, this is them in their element. This is them being very useful.
And especially when they did the pairing up when they fought against their teachers and all that. So not only did you give them a chance to sign the other side characters in Class 1A, but also it gave the teachers and some of the professionals that nobody really knew about, who you only saw like them in the background. It's like, okay, now we learn what their quirk is. And what makes them so powerful.
I want to see Shota Aizawa fight as often as possible, because that teacher is the greatest.
Yeah. Which I think he's mentoring one of the other students, the one who Deco fought in the tournament, the purple head guy, the one with the brainwashing quirk.
Oh, is that true?
I think he's like kind of like being a mentor to him, because I've seen a lot of cosplay and a lot of fan art with that character wearing like a scarf similar to what Izawa is. How
I love that.
His scarf, his capture weapon that he uses. I've seen a lot of fan art or cosplay of that same character, the one with the purple hair, the brainwashing quirk, wearing something like that with like a mask, which I assume is like a megaphone.
That'd be good.
Because like
I'm super, because he's definitely treated as a villain. Because he kind of has to. He's fighting the main character, and his quirk is on the evil side, considering he's like almost the Purple Man from Jessica Jones. It's an evil quirk on like a base note, but he still wants to be a hero. He's not going to let that stop him, and it's also Like his quirk is super strong, but it's been left behind because no one's looking.
It's strictly on his own physical abilities. Like
Yeah.
it's like, well, how can I render this useful? But I would see him when I first heard of his quirk. I immediately thought, I'm like, okay, this guy would be a perfect interrogator.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that, he would be an interrogator, and
He
which I
does.
could see being good and bad. But
Yeah.
he could interrogate terrorists or someone who's captured or whatever. Like that could be his power, or that's how he could be of use to where he interrogates people.
Mhm.
But also, since he's able to control them, if someone's in like a hostage situation and he starts negotiating with them and they're dumb enough to fall for
Yeah.
it, he's like, now they're controlled. He's like, all right, let the hostages go, and then they let the hostages go, and then the whole thing's over.
Yeah. Let him go.
It's
Put the gun down. Come outside. All right. Cool. Let's
yeah,
go.
exactly. He's like, how about you put the gun down? It's all like the guy responds, and he's like, ugh. And he like does what he says. He's like, all right, now put these handcuffs on.
Let's
Like
drive to
that.
the prison. You're driving. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. That's what I've seen with him, and so I'm really curious to see because it looks like Izawa like kind of took a shine to him because in the tournament he says like, oh, he couldn't be in the hero course because obviously he has no physical advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But or maybe he just took on that persona because his whole thing is that yes, he needs to capture them to get them close to him so that way he can like I guess get them to respond to him because that's how his quirk works. Like he needs a response or they need to acknowledge him in a way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But starts next month, and I'm sure we'll have an episode where we talk about this. Hero Academia in the new season finale.
Eagerly awaiting.
Yes, eagerly. But that's all we have time for today. So thank you everyone for stopping by and listening to the show. If you've made it this far, give us a like, subscribe, and so we can get that little notification for every time we drop an episode. And thank you again for stopping by. And of course, thank you, Joe. Get your double dose today.
We always run long. I don't know what it is about
Yeah.
me, but it makes us want to talk for an hour.
Yeah. Well, I think I did. We did an equal amount of talking, but yeah, we kind of rambled on a little bit. But it's anime, and it's what I like so much.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Hey guys, it's Teosha Charles here from Animation Station. Just wanted to talk to you guys about our wonderful company, Elite 23 Global, which is a creative place for creative minds. We have a wonderful board of branches, which is fashion, media, and even gaming. We have a team of creative minds coming together to make projects we always wanted to start, like this one. Also, come check out our clothing store called Elite 23 Shopping to check out the hottest and even cutest styles. If you want something new, come to Elite 23 Shopping. See you guys later. Bye!